people.
I woke up feeling great. The birds are in the trees. They're singing me a melody. La 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 la, fuck the police. My head is on straight. My heart is in peace. My soul is incredibly ready to change history. It's a good day to fight the system. To fight the system. It's a good, good day. It's a good, good day. We're never gonna stop. We're gonna make it count. When one of us is tired out, the other one will hold it down. We're gonna spread the love. We're gonna spread it around. We're all over the city now, and way down in the underground. Come on. To fight the system, to fight the system. It's a good, good day. It's a good, good day. It's a good day to fight the system, to fight the system. It's a good, good day. It's a to fight the system, to fight the system. It's a good, good, good day. It's a good, good, good day.
Hello.
To fight the system, to fight the system. It's a
Hi, good evening,
Hi,
everybody.
good evening.
Welcome. I'm Sophia Elijah. I'm the Executive Director of the Alliance of Families for Justice. Welcome to our second town hall that is focusing on the impact of COVID-19 on families and our incarcerated loved ones, and a number of different concerns that family members have. I am only going to share with you the mission of the Alliance of Families for Justice, which is to support, empower, and mobilize families who have incarcerated loved ones and people who have justice involvement, so that they can marshal their collective power to bring about the systemic change they want to see that will improve the quality of their lives and their communities. With that, I'm going to pass the virtual microphone over to Akira, who's our program manager. Just before I do that, though, I want to say with pride that this program and all the events that AFJ sponsors are designed by and implemented by directly impacted people and people with justice involvement. And with that, please enjoy the program. Take it away, Akira.
Thank you, Sophia. Good evening, everyone. It's good to see all of you here today. It's a good day to fight the system today and every day. So we have a powerful lineup for you tonight. We have powerful speakers, our family members, directly impacted family members, to speak about so many of the topics that are impacting us and our loved ones across New York State in each prison. So tonight, sit back, enjoy the show, become empowered, and let's make it happen. It's a good day to fight the system. So our first topic tonight is COVID conditions on the inside. We are going to have two speakers, Kenya and Tasha, who are each going to read a submission by people who are currently inside. We are going to have them read them anonymously. And the reason for that is because we know that retaliation is real. And so we're going to keep them anonymous, but just know that these are the voices of currently incarcerated people. So thank you. With that, passing the mic over to Kenya.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kenya, and I will present a piece written by a person who is currently incarcerated. The prospect of dying came flying at me in the form of a microscopic pathogen, one with no cure and easy transmission. Making it worse is that I am in prison where I cannot follow most of the suggested precautions. It is hard for the people incarcerated who actually care about the threat of catching COVID. The majority of the guards walk around without using proper precautions recommended by the CDC, and within the facility, there is no way to socially distance. Even though many of us tried to make homemade masks, we were not permitted to protect ourselves with it until, we were not permitted to protect ourselves until it began to run rampant throughout the facility. There was no sense of urgency to protect or preserve the lives of the incarcerated. I live for my family and make decisions based upon how my choices may affect them. I wear the mask and follow all the CDC precautions. I was able to finally get vaccinated. Out of the 8 men who were called down during my time slot, only 3 actually took the shot. I feel as though the facility has done absolutely nothing to educate the population about the vaccines or the particular ones that we were offered. The irony is, there is an organization that asked for permission to educate the population about the vaccines and what COVID-19 does to the body. Those efforts were for naught. It could have been a catalyst for change. It could have saved lives. Even though my anxiety about getting sick even though my anxiety about getting sick has been reduced by being vaccinated and continued use of precautions, I'm concerned for when docs informs us that we are no longer allowed to wear the mask. The threat is still there, and docs has made it painfully clear that they do not value the lives of those men and women who are incarcerated and trying to do what is within their power to stay safe and keep those around them safe. Thank you.
Go ahead, Tasha.
Good evening. My name is Tasha, and I'm going to be reading another piece from someone anonymous who is currently incarcerated. Our environment quickly became violent and hostile in the beginning stages of the COVID pandemic. Fear of catching the virus and restriction of all visits from our loved ones had everyone stressed and on edge. I did what I could to keep a positive mindset while some of those around me conducted themselves like they had nothing to live for. I have been in prison over 20 years, and I always have been blessed to receive visits from my wife and loved ones. To have those visits stripped from me for many months was extremely painful. And when the world began to open back up, the Department of Corrections continued to use COVID restrictions to keep our loved ones out as just another means to punish us. The Department of Corrections acts as if it is impossible for us to contract COVID through correctional officers bringing it into the facilities. But that is because they view incarcerated people as subhuman. I sometimes wonder how much damage this past year of anger, stress, frustration, and fear has done. Lately, COVID conditions in prison have appeared to somewhat improved, but I don't think it is because of any action taken by the Department of Corrections. Realistically, the way prison is designed, it is impossible to practice social distancing due to overcrowding. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is being offered to us, but few are taking it because of the fear it will do more harm than good. There is a lack of trust in the quality of healthcare we receive here and a lack of trust in the Department of Corrections. All one can do is pray, mask up, and wash their hands.
Thank you, Tasha. Thank you, Kenya. And thank you to those submissions for those submissions. At this time, we'd like to open the floor if there's any questions that you might have regarding COVID conditions on the inside. And if you do have questions, you can just raise your hand and then I can go ahead and acknowledge you. Or you can add your questions to the chat. And if there are no questions, we can move on to the next topic. And if a question comes to you, feel free, put it into the chat or raise your hand and we can definitely get to the questions. Okay, let me do one more scan to make sure. Okay. So moving on to our next topic. But before we move on to that, I would like to say one of the things that we need from the Department of Corrections and from our elected officials is for, of course, to provide adequate and appropriate timely medical care, stop punishing people who are sick by locking them in a cell without medical treatment or care, cease the illogical quarantine activities that are an excuse for solitary confinement hidden under the guise of medical safety. So, and first and foremost as well, allow people to shower more than 3 times a week, which is some of the questions, some of the issues that we're having across New York State in the facilities. And I'm going to pass the mic to Sophia because I do see you have your hand up.
Yes, hi, there's a question in the chat. And the question is, isn't there a mandate that masks be worn by prison guards? Does anybody want to answer that?
The prison guards are not mandated to wear masks. They wear the mask if they choose to wear the mask, which is a big issue for us.
Go ahead, Kenya. I think you were going to add on to that. And Yakik, you might have wanted to add on to that as well.
Okay, you want to go first, or I could chime in. Yeah,
You can go ahead, Yakik. Thank you.
Okay. From the individuals that I've been writing, they mentioned that the guards are not wearing masks. They're going around the facility not wearing the mask and not caring at all whether they wear the mask or not. It's like a disregard for those that are incarcerated, saying, well, what can they do? You know, the inmates are feeling that there's nothing they can do because the guards are walking around freely thinking that they can get away with this and nothing will be done to them.
Go ahead, Emma.
Hi,
Thank
good
you,
evening.
Yakik.
First and foremost, I just want to say thank you for doing this, bringing awareness. From my loved one, he has told me that the guards do not wear masks. The only time that you might see them actually pull up a mask is when a higher ranking officer, such as a sergeant or another white shirt, comes in and they'll pull up their mask. But other than that, it's really just low or hanging, underneath their chin. Thank you.
Right. And technically, right, if you asked anyone in the Department of Corrections, they would of course say, yes, we're following CDC guidelines. We are mandating that the officers wear masks. But what's actually happening is not wearing masks. What's actually happening is congregating next to each other, no masks, socializing, eating. Meanwhile, if we're in the visiting room, we must stay socially distant with the mask on or risk being removed from the room or losing your visits. So there's a double standard happening. So yes, technically they are being mandated and supposed to be wearing masks, but what's actually happening is no.
I think it's a very interesting situation where everyone else is supposed to be wearing masks. You go into any kind of state or federal building, you are mandated to put on a mask and wear a mask. Families have been closed out of the facilities for a very long time. I mean, we're back in now, but we were closed out of the facilities for a very long time and forced to wear masks in order to get in. Yet and still, the guards are not wearing their masks. And if you're around them and you see them in the visiting room or throughout the facility, the only time you will see them with the mask, most of them, is when a white shirt comes in or a sergeant comes in. They'll pull up their mask, they'll start to socially distance, they'll break away from the pack. And that's a huge concern.
Mhm. So if there are any more questions on this, we can circle back to them at the end because we want to be mindful of time. So we're going to move on to the next topic. But if anyone wants to talk about this anymore, we can definitely we have time at the end, so we'll definitely circle back to it. And if a question comes up, please put it in the chat because we are monitoring that. And so we can definitely circle to that question as well. So our next topic is the topic of marriage licenses. And the person who we have to speak on that tonight is Kim. She's not with us, but we made a video of her statement. And I just want to make sure everybody can see my screen, can see her on the video. Thumbs up. Wonderful. So with no further ado, here is Kim.
Hi, my name is Kim. After a year since the business first closed in March 2020, Docs is still refusing to reinstate the processing of marriage license applications. Do you know how it feels to share a loving bond with someone and you're not able to move forward with him or her and get married? Welcome to my normalcy. Marriage is a recognized union in which two people share emotional and spiritual commitment. Marriage is a lifetime commitment that we both take seriously and seek to make to each other. We sent letters to the superintendent requesting permission to get married, and we never received a response. Docs is using COVID as an excuse to further punish incarcerated people and their families. How else can you explain not even being allowed to submit an application to get married? Through hours of research and data collection, it has come to the forefront that county clerks' offices in each county, including those located near correctional facilities, have been processing marriage licenses throughout the pandemic. Yet, New York State Department of Correction has decided to deny the right to us. Docs chose to shut down access to the blessing of marriage with no plausible explanation. Marriage helps tighten the bond shared by two people who are in love and lessens the stress the incarcerated individual may be experiencing. Marriage brings families together to support one another, especially those during these hard times. Tomorrow isn't promised. Every night I say a prayer, hoping we'll get an answer soon. We are filled with uncertainties because Docs is abusing its power. Docs must stop using COVID as an excuse and start processing marriage license applications immediately. Thank you.
So with that, we want to open the floor up again. If there's any questions on this topic, I have heard through the grapevine that there's supposedly a facility that is processing and that there's some people got married, but I don't have confirmation if that's the truth. So until I personally know somebody, then at this moment in time, we're going to say that processing of marriage licenses is not happening. So with that, the floor is open if anyone has any questions on this topic.
Not 100% sure. I think they are. But yeah.
Hi, I just want to say, I know in Sullivan Correctional Facility, they have started the process of processing applications because my brother is incarcerated and my sister-in-law is going through the process to be married. They have a date chosen in June.
Okay, and so with that facility, did they actually gave them the date, and did they tell them, all of the procedure? Did they have that information? Did they get all that information?
No, she has to meet now with the counselor, and she's trying to get a date to meet with the counselor. So she wrote him an email with several days that she's available, and she's waiting for that response. And I spoke to her today about that.
Okay. So what is it that she actually got?
She wrote to the superintendent, and he said he needs to meet with them. So, well, with her. So she's trying now to find a date that's compatible with her and his schedule.
The council, not the superintendent.
But that date has not been finalized, and she needs to get that from the counselor. Is that what I'm
Okay? No, it has not been finalized yet.
Okay. So when that date is finalized, so this is good information. When that date is finalized and when she actually sits down with the counselor and when they actually start making moves, we definitely want to hear about that.
Okay.
Because
Every
part of
Tuesday.
the issue, part of the issue is that docs will always say, yes, 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 yes,
Mm.
but then they drag their feet and kind of nothing happens. But keep us posted with that for sure.
I think
That's
part of the
good.
concern with the marriage licenses is that we've been in lockdown. We were in lockdown for an extreme amount of time. And throughout that time frame, they were not processing any marriage licenses in Department of Corrections, not one. However, anyone else out on the streets were still able to go and get a marriage license and get married. I think that's really one of the big issues. I don't understand how it is that they're processing all of the clerk's offices. And if not all of them, there was one in every single area that a correctional facility was located, that was processing. I mean, there were some county clerks that went through revamping their whole system so that they can be able to process marriage licenses. And for them to go through that much trouble for the Department of Corrections to not allow it, that's a problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Kenya, for that. Agreed, 100%. So we're going to move to the next topic just for time's sake, but we can again circle right back to this topic again so that everyone's clear. And of course, our call to action is 100% reinstate the processing of marriage licenses, make those appointments, make it happen, get people married, issue the licenses, period. So our next topic is the treatment of visitors on when we go on a visit. And I want to preface this topic by saying what you're about to hear is representative of not just the speakers, but representative of many of us, maybe even hundreds of us, I would go as far as to say. So keeping in mind that this is representing a lot of women, and some men also, who have experienced the mistreatment when going on a visit. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic to, first we have Veronica, who's going to speak, and then we have Takesha.
Hi, my name is Veronica, and this is my story. 3 words: just stand still. These are the words spoken to me while a dog forces his nose into my vaginal area searching for contraband. I am a mother. I am a daughter. I am a sister. I am a human being. Visiting my incarcerated loved one involves rising at 4:30 in the morning, prepping a food package to leave at the facility for him, driving sometimes hours to get to him, and waiting on extremely long lines once there. All of this concludes with being met at Greenhaven Correctional Facility by staff that want to see who can flex their muscles the hardest that day. I understand completely that they have a job to do, but where does dehumanization fall in their job description? The violation of having a dog forcefully parting my thighs with his nose, pushing it into my vaginal area, then sending me off to see my loved one as if I wasn't just stripped of my dignity is hurtful, disgusting, and insulting. When my loved one arrives, the smile that usually paints my now stoic face is gone. How do I enjoy my time with my loved one after experiencing something like this? How do I convince myself to come see him again, knowing that there's a possibility this will happen again? Psychologically, I have not been the same since experiencing this twice in less than a month. I can still feel that black dog forcing his nose between my legs and the officer's words ringing in my ears. Just stand still. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. We're going to hear from Takesha now. Thank you for that powerful statement.
Good evening. I'm Takesha, AFJ's Beverly Sims Community Organizing Fellow, and I am grateful for the opportunity to be here with you all to share what visitation is like for me. In order to visit our loved ones, we must face a degrading and humiliating obstacle course. We are greeted by evil souls in navy blue uniforms and some white collar shirts. Preyed upon from the moment we arrive, unsheltered from the cold, rain, and snow as we form a line. Outside the Welcome Center since 8 a.m., I hold my glam daughter, 5th in line. After 10 a.m., we still haven't been let inside. At this point, we must now wait for the count to end. Then across the street, we'll join a line again. Once we arrive at the visit building door, I am interrogated, then forcibly molested for search by a deadly vicious animal. During the intake process, DOCS employees do not sanitize their hands, items used, or change gloves in between visiting families. Administrative staff do not wear masks in or outside of the facility buildings. We now wait 30 minutes for my partner to arrive on the visiting floor. We are separated 8 to 10 feet away by 2 tables placed in between, while the correction officers huddle and eat together with no distance in between. I observe one overworked, incarcerated individual sanitize between the restrooms and vending machines. Families are lucky if they are able to use the machine. Some purchase food they never got to eat, for in 1 to 2 hours, their visits are terminated for others to meet. Yet, the additional visiting rooms and non-contact areas remain closed. This spiteful act of hate and separation must end. We demand accountability, restoration of full contact visits, and family programming again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Takesha. And thank you, Veronica, for those powerful words. At this time, we have a moment for questions. I see that Rosalind, you have your hand up.
Yes, I do. I was listening to Veronica's story, and I'm thinking that she was going to say a different facility because it happened to me at Green Haven also. I was standing in line, and then they call you up, and this dog is in my vagina, my private area, and then of course I moved because I don't want that snout all on me. And then I was told to come back. And as I'm standing there, he went behind me and did the same thing. So I had to write it up. But I was shocked that it's still going on at Green Haven.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that and for stepping up to have your voice be heard, because it is still going on, and you are not alone. Veronica is not alone. Her statement speaks for a lot of women. And this is not okay. And let it be known that we are making moves and have made moves to make this stop immediately.
Is it
unacceptable.
Is it also happening to men or just females?
To my knowledge, it's just women. But we don't know. But to my knowledge, and from the stories that we've heard, it's just women.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Are there any other questions?
Yes, I'm sorry. I know that there's also a family member who had taken her son, and with the child being afraid of the dog, it was a situation for them. I think that, Veronica and Takesha's story is also my story. But I think that I fight it as much as I can. But I also have concern for older women who go in there. When I've taken my mother up there, it's heartbreaking to see her stand there shaking and this dog walking around her, putting his nose in places that it shouldn't be. And the guard stands there. Sometimes they're looking away. It's almost as if it brings them some kind of joy to bring fear to people. That is something that needs to be reviewed and stopped.
Yes, agreed. And as everyone knows, we are definitely making moves and have made moves for this to be known and for this to be stopped immediately. It's unacceptable, 100%. Our definite call to action for the treatment of visitors is, of course, stopping this sexually intrusive dog searches, open up more approved visiting spaces for families to see their loved ones, open up the children's play area, allow for quicker processing during visits because we shouldn't have to be sitting there waiting for hours for our loved one to come down. And we need areas where our families can be protected from the elements when we're waiting online to see our loved ones. So with that, we're going to move on to our next topic. Again, if there's any questions, please do put them in the chat or we can circle back later at the end. Our next topic is the importance of reinstating contact during visits. And for this topic, our speakers tonight are Aisha and Rebecca. So passing the mic over to Aisha.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Aisha, and my journey to see my loved one usually begins midnight the day of the visit. And this is before the pandemic. But due to these new visit restrictions, arriving early is a must for me in order to receive a good number to ensure that all of my time is spent with my loved one. So the fact that we have not been able to have any contact in basically over a year is beyond painful. Truthfully speaking, Docs has handled this pandemic poorly, treating our loved ones horribly. During the initial shutdown, there were limited masks, other PPE, and my husband's facility did not even begin testing until weeks before the visits initially reopened in August of 2020. I remember calling the facility begging to send him PPE because I would hear the fear in his voice when we would speak. I'm still baffled that my husband even contracted COVID in December of 2020 and his facility was already on lockdown. Yet, Docs is consistently insisting it's family members causing these surges. When the facilities recently reopened a few weeks ago, we were so hopeful we will be able to have a brief embrace. Still, that's nowhere in sight. Yet the world is opening up, vaccines are being administered, but families are still being shut out. Why? Currently, this is one of the most toughest times for incarcerated families. Unfortunately, this pandemic has crumbled many. Imagine not being able to see your loved one for months, consistently worrying about his mental, his physical well-being. Then when you are able to see him, you have no contact whatsoever. My husband wrote this. Unbearable is the most accurate way I can describe what it's been like for me, not being able to have any physical contact with my wife for well over a year. As the months have elapsed, the stress of it all has become so overwhelming. The hopelessness that blankets me is almost too heavy to shake off. Mentally, I like to think of myself as a strong person, but this ordeal, it has brought me to the brink of losing my insanity. Not being able to hug my wife, let alone touch her, has caused me to undergo frequent bouts of depression on levels I never even knew existed. We are calling for Docs to reinstate contact visits now. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you for those powerful words. With that, we are going to hear from Rebecca, and we have her on recording tonight. And I just want to double check with you guys that you can actually see her or see the video. Okay, perfect.
Hello, my name is Rebecca, and I'd like to thank you for having me here today. I am going to also speak about reinstating contact visits. Our 9-year-old son states that no contact visits make me feel upset and sad that I can't play with my father. Why won't they let us touch each other? Why can't I be with my father? Why can't I sit next to him or hug him? They don't care about our families, do they? All this happens meanwhile, officers and staff members get to sit next to each other side by side, eat, and hang out with each other. The reinstatement of contact visits in New York State needs to be restored immediately. The disruption of family bonds has been broken enough due to incarceration. To have taken away our contact visits is even more disruptive to our children's and families' mental, social, and emotional health and well-being. It has caused much pain and suffering, not only to the children, but to the parents and spouses and loved ones of those incarcerated. Having a spouse that you cannot be with due to a pandemic is punitive and unjust punishment. How would anyone here like to not be able to touch, hug, hold, kiss, embrace, or be intimate with their spouse that they've been with their whole lives? It's extremely disheartening, frustrating, and can be detrimental to one's relationships, familial bonds, and mental health. Children's play areas and outside visitor areas are empty, unused spaces by the Department of Corrections at this time. Do not use coronavirus or social distancing requirements as a tool to deter and break familial bonds. This is inhumane, punitive, and unjust to all of our families. At a time when despair, concern, and remaining united is much needed, we are being stripped even more from our loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you for all those powerful words from both of those speakers. At this time, again, we'd like to open the floor if there's any questions that anyone might have about that topic, this topic. And again, you can enter your questions into the chat too if you have them. Our call to action for this part, of course, as you've heard, is allow contact during visits, not just a brief embrace in the beginning and the end. That's not enough. We need to be able to sit next to our loved ones. We need to be able to hold their hand if we wanted to. We need to be able to get up and walk around. We need to be able to hug them whenever throughout the visit that's wanted. Allow children to hug their parents. Allow families to embrace each other. Allow mothers to hug their sons or their daughters. Human contact is important for everyone, especially people who are incarcerated and already dealing with mental stress from incarceration and COVID. So with that, we're going to move on to the next topic. And our next topic is the importance of the Family Reunion Program, also known as FRP. For this topic, our speakers are Kenya and Karima. So with no further ado, take it away, Kenya.
As you know, my name is Kenya. I'm here to speak with you about the importance of the Family Reunion Program, also referred to as FRP, overnights, or trailers. This is a privilege that can be earned by people within the incarcerated population. There are certain criteria that must be met and upheld to be afforded this privilege. Once approved, you can spend approximately 43 hours behind the prison walls in a small house-like structure with approved family members. When people hear the term FRP, they often assume it is reserved for husbands and wives, but that is far from the truth. This is a program that allows incarcerated people to reconnect further with their children, mother, father, brother, sister, grandchildren, nieces, and nephews. This time together is invaluable. This time is used to build and sometimes rebuild family bonds. It is a time when you can peel back the layers and truly get to the root of issues in hopes to resolve. A time when you can sit down and teach your children, grandchildren, nephew, nieces, brothers, and sisters how to not end up behind the walls. Once someone has earned this privilege, it gives them something to look forward to and hold on to, something to hope for. It makes you appreciate what was lost and what you are trying to get back to. It allows you to build, experience, and grow upon your emotional connections to your support system. It allows you to build, explore, strengthen your mental health, emotional, and spiritual intimacy with your loved ones. This program was halted in the beginning of 2020 when docs first shut down the prisons for visits. They have been promising to review and reopen, but nothing has been done. Still, the program has not been reopened, and we are missing valuable time to bond with our families. We need to have a massive push to have FRP program reopened as quickly as possible, and that means now. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenya, for those powerful words. Our next speaker on this topic is Karima, and we have her on video. Just confirming that you guys can see my screen. You can see Karima. Perfect. And here we go.
Greetings all. I'm Karima Smith, artist in residence for AFJ. FRP is sacred to my family and I. To sleep, wake, break bread, and pray together is essential to the continued solidification and love and evolution of our family's strength, security, support, motivation, and dedication. A child's experience of spending time with their loved ones in a setting which replicates a greater sense of normalcy is vital to their growth and development. And now, the words of my husband, college student, and father of 6.
Good day, all. The whole world had to readjust to a new way of life as a result of COVID-19, and many people suffered. In my opinion, the families of the incarcerated suffered the worst. While everyone on the outside social distance from the population, they still at the very least had the direct support, love, and mental comfort of being with their immediate families. The officers, staff, and civilians that worked in the facilities all went home at night and were able to hug and kiss their wives and children. The FRP program is a privilege. It is a privilege that a selective few have earned. It is not just the opportunity to be intimate with our spouses that has been taken away from us. It is the only opportunity we have to directly love, lead, and uplift our children and families. The last year and a half has created much stress, depression, and anxiety in our families' lives. And the ability to have the sacred time that FRP provides is imperative to the overall mental health, maintenance, and growth and development of our families. The purpose of FRP is to strengthen the family bonds and ties. The continued prolonging of reopening FRPs is breaking families and marriages in ways that are irreparable.
Powerful words, powerful presentation, powerful messaging. With this moment, we'd like to open the floor if there's any questions about the topic. Sophia, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Someone raised a question. They asked, is there any possibility that docs would increase the access to FRPs to make up for the very long period of separation due to COVID-19?
I honestly can't imagine that they would, because at this point in time, they have not even brought FRP back to the table. They were supposed to review the FRP family reunion program process and what we're going to do to move forward with it. They have not done that. We have been waiting. So even though it sounds good, and I would like to think that, you know, they might throw us a bone, the answer is no. They have proven that to us time and time again by saying they're going to bring it to the table, and slowly but surely it's pushed right over the side and not even addressed.
Deborah, I see that you have a question.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether there's been any intervention by mental health professionals connected to both the marriage license issue and the FRP issue, they can certainly speak to the importance of keeping these relationships alive and thriving, and the consequence of not doing that for both family members and the person who is incarcerated. And I'm just wondering whether there has been any statements by mental health professionals to docs about the consequences of these policies.
Sophia, I see your hand up. Were you going to answer that, or?
Yeah, I was. To our knowledge, mental health professionals haven't weighed in. What we also know is docs is continuing to hide behind the excuse that they're being compliant with the Department of Health and CDC guidelines. And so any other interventions or opinions aren't carrying much weight as far as how docs is responding.
Got it.
Are there any other questions?
There is another question that was posed, Akira. The question is, what can members of the audience do, or what should they ask other people on the outside to do to support the family members and directly impacted people in these circumstances?
One of the things that we know is very powerful is talking to your elected officials, letting them know that you're concerned about the issues that we have raised tonight. So hearing it from multiple people across the city and even across the state is important. It shows our elected officials that it is a topic that is important to the community. That it is, these are topics that are important to not just directly impacted people, but many, 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 many people. The other thing you can do is that we have a letter that many clergy have signed on, which asks the Department of Corrections to reinstate FRP, Family Reunion Program, to hold the Department of Corrections accountable for following CDC guidelines. So having anyone that you know who could sign on to that letter would be also very helpful, because that letter again is going to our elected officials. And I'm just scanning. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in. I was going to say people can also write op-eds. They can write letters to the editor, and they can write all over the state of New York. It's important. Those opinion pieces that come out, the governor and the commissioner of docs, they pay attention to those things. So there are multiple ways for people to make their voices heard, and we should access all of them.
And the last thing I would say is definitely join our meetings on Thursdays. You know, our community organizing meetings, our community meetings that talk about these topics, because then you are part of a group and you have group support. And it's important for us to have multiple voices. So join our meetings and get involved in that way, for sure. With that, if there are any other questions or questions that I've missed, or if you have your hand up and I missed you, please just put your question into the chat and we can circle back to it. But in the for the essence of time, we're going to move on to the next topic. But the call to action with FRP is the Family Reunion Program is to reinstate it immediately, open it up, make it happen. And with the same CDC guidelines that we are being held to for regular visits. So the same CDC guidelines, temperature check, questionnaire, right? Do not punish families of the incarcerated with extra hoops to jump through that the staff and the Department of Corrections as a whole is not holding their own people accountable to. We are tired of the double standard. With that, this kind of goes to the topic that Deborah raised about mental health. So our next topic is mental health. So with that, we're going to hear from Tasha and Yakik So giving a warm welcome. Take it away, Tasha.
Good evening. Again, my name is Tasha, and I'm going to speak about mental health challenges in New York State prisons. There is a mental health crisis in New York, and our prison system is heavily affected. Suicide is a leading cause of death in prisons. Incarcerated individuals with mental illness are often victimized and abused. The response to their health problems in prison are often punitive and increase risk of disability and death. People are not given the proper medication. They are not in a therapeutic supportive setting, which creates an environment that fosters post-traumatic stress disorder. Many incarcerated people experience depression or anxiety disorders because they feel they are no longer considered productive members of society. Their identities get stripped from them. The prison environment adds to stress. There is violence in prisons from prison staff and other incarcerated people. People in prison are subject to isolation, which increases the risk of anxiety, insomnia, paranoia, aggression, and depression. And most importantly, they are separated from their loved ones. Prisons should explore strategies for promoting mental well-being, mindfulness-based therapies, and emotional support from other incarcerated people should also be facilitated. Everyone, including people with mental health challenges, have the right to be treated as human beings and with dignity and respect. Our call to action is promote the adoption of mental health legislation that protects human rights, such as acceptable living conditions, adequate, healthy, fresh food, treatment of underlying issues, access to the open air, meaningful activity, therapeutic programming, and ensuring contact with loved ones is maintained. There should be policy changes that will help keep people out of the prison pipeline to begin with, and with an improvement of alternatives to incarceration by focusing on community-based treatment and community support services surrounding mental health. In prisons, there should be preparation for re-entry into society and ongoing staff training that focuses on the understanding of mental health disorders. Thank you.
Thank you, Tasha, for all of that important information and a powerful presentation. With that, we're going to hear from Yakik, and we have Yakik on video. So just making sure that you can see my screen where you see Yakik. Thumbs up if you do. Okay, perfect.
Good evening. My name is Yaqui Rumley, and I will share with you how incarceration affects you mentally. Incarceration takes a toll on someone's mental health in the following ways. It allows you to worry about what may be happening to your loved ones on the outside, worrying about a wife or girlfriend, or giving you anxiety about whether your friends will write you letters after you reach out to them via letters. It also affects you because you constantly deal with the abuse from the correction officers. The officers are very nasty and want you to react to them in a negative way so you can get another charge on your record. Incarceration enforces you to keep your emotions in check so you don't get a tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 disciplinary ticket from the officers. Another way it affects you mentally is it interrupts your ability to socialize with other people. You become guarded while incarcerated, and it makes it much harder to trust people again once you are released. For me, I had to attend the Ackerman Institute for Therapy for 4 years upon my release in 2013. I had to relearn how to work with others in the workforce again. I had to learn to relate to family and friends again. And also I had to learn new technology, which had changed from 2010 to 2013. Thank you for allowing me to share this with you. God bless you all.
Thank you for those presentations, for that information from both Yakik and Tasha. So with this moment, again, opening the floor, if there's any questions regarding mental health and our incarcerated loved ones? And as you formulate your questions or think about what's been presented tonight, just keeping in mind that being here is important. And thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to what we have to say. Sophia, go ahead. I see you have your hand up.
Yes, many people have contacted me over the past few weeks and asked whether or not, due to the isolation and separation from families that incarcerated people are experiencing, have they been provided with extra mental health supports inside docks to help them to cope with the strain and stress that they're experiencing? I was wondering if any of the family members could respond to that.
No, they haven't, not at all. So I took it upon myself to meditate with my husband and do affirmations every day over the phone, and that's been helping him a lot. But no, that he hasn't been offered anything in his facility.
And I'd like to concur with Tasha saying that in my husband's facility as well, there's absolutely no mental health services and pretty much anything for the guys to do in Attica. And it's definitely caused much tension and just stress among the men that are there. Like you, Tasha, said, I definitely, meditate and send my husband literature, but I also have my own therapist that sometimes when he calls, she's able to talk with him. So I'm working with her to try to figure out if she can get involved with AFJ to see what type of services she may be able to, provide and assist. Because this mental health issue, due to this pandemic has really, really become a serious crisis. My husband was in the box during some of this time during the pandemic, and it was a very, very tough and scary time. Very scary time.
And I would say to that question too, or that statement about mental health. So we were already in a mental health desert, right? In a mental health support desert, meaning that there was no and has not been any focus on the mental health or well-being of our loved ones. And just as we know, COVID is extremely stressful. It is a million times more stressful when you're locked up in a cell, in isolation, minimal access to information. So there was already a lack on the Department of Corrections in providing mental health support. And there's definitely an even greater lack now. Are there any other thoughts or questions regarding any of the topics? So at this moment, even though we've passed some of the topics, we can circle back to any questions that you might have regarding any of the topics that we talked about tonight, or general questions that you might have regarding conditions or what's happening or what we're doing.
There's a question in the chat, Akira. It says, what is it going to take to make docs treat people in a more humane way, particularly when they're dealing with such serious issues?
Does any of our panelists want to take that question, or I can answer it? So it takes pressure. It takes activism. It takes people speaking up. It takes people not being silent. It takes families coming together. I see in the chat, it takes a lawsuit, right? Exactly, right? It takes everyone banding together and saying, this is unacceptable and we will not tolerate it. And this is what we need, without compromise. without compromising our loved ones and without compromising integrity and our integrity and what we know needs to happen. And it takes involvement. Everybody has to be involved because incarceration impacts our communities as a whole, not just one family, but our entire communities. And if one community is impacted, everybody's community is impacted.
Yeah, I was going to add that it's so important for family members and the rest of us on the outside to get involved and speak up. This year is the 50th anniversary and commemoration of the rebellion at Attica, when the men at Attica stood up and tried to be heard about the inhumane conditions under which they were being caged. And in response to their efforts to try to be heard, the governor of New York at that time ordered state troopers to retake the prison by force, murdering 43 people, and never apologized to the families of those who were murdered by the state troopers. We don't want something like that to ever happen again. So it's incumbent upon those of us on the outside to do everything possible. And all the weight shouldn't just be borne by the family members who are already dealing with many, many stressors, just trying to be supportive of their loved ones. So for every single person, it's imperative that you do everything within your means to highlight these issues and to demand that humane treatment is provided to people who are incarcerated and their family members on the outside. I put in the chat that people who want to sign on to the FRP letter can simply send an email to info@afj-ny.org and let us know that you want to have your name added to that letter, and we will add your name to it.
And I would like to say we have about, I think when I counted it, oh goodness, I remember counting it. I know it's 100% over 100 signatures. And I don't want to say the wrong number, but it's definitely over 100. Thank you. I see in the chat. Thank you for this important town hall. Blessings to all the family members so brave to share. Yes. And thank you to all of you for being here because these are important, important topics that cannot be ignored. And with that, if you want to be involved or want to come to the town meetings, our organizing meetings, we have them weekly on Thursday evenings, and you can send an email to the same email address, info@afj-ny.org. Come join us. Are there any other questions at this moment? We'd like to say that we're definitely going to be sharing this with our elected officials. We're definitely going to be sharing this with the reporters on social media. It's important for all of us to come together and speak out. It's important for our voices to be heard. It's important for us to not be ignored. Thank you to all of you who are here tonight in support.
Is it time for me to wrap up, Akira? I don't know.
It may be time.
Okay. So again, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Hope we'll see many of you tomorrow night at our weekly community organizing meeting. I want to say how proud I am for all the presenters. Can we give them all a virtual applause? Yes. It's not easy to share your pain publicly. And I know several of them are giving me the amen nod, the stress, the concern, the worry, but they did it. And they did it with compassion and passion. And I say that they're warriors. They're warriors on the battlefield for justice. While they're also, sending commissary, accepting phone calls, and getting the kids' schoolwork done, but they're also organizing and highlighting these issues. So I can't be happier and more proud of all of them. And ultimately, if we are really successful, there'll be a day when we won't need an AFJ because all of these horrors will be gone. But in the meantime, we're going to keep on fighting and keep on struggling. I want to also say let's give a special shout out to Akira for moderating this event. She did a phenomenal job as always. Thank you, Akira. And behind the scenes, our tech person extraordinaire who's hiding behind, I think, our AFJ logo is Emily. Thank you, Emily, for holding us together and being our timekeeper. We look forward to seeing you all tomorrow and in future events. Please tell your elected officials, tell other people about what you heard tonight. Help to spread the word and be on the lookout. We have another round of ads coming in the Albany Times Union around Father's Day. If you missed our ads around Mother's Day, check out what we had on social media posted because we shared them. And we had quite a bit of success from that effort, and we plan to repeat success. Success is actually our middle name. So with that, I'll turn the virtual mic back over to Akira to close us out with some compelling music.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good to see all of you, and thank you for being here. Here is our closing song. So much to all of you, standing strong together, always fighting for justice. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting. Good job, panelists.
Thank you, Akira, for everything. Yep, you rock.
Thank you, Akira.
Thanks, Akira.
Thank you, Akira, and AFJ family, everything for everyone for everything. Tonight was amazing and very powerful. So thank you for letting me be part of it.
Amazing.
Great
So
job.
proud of you all.
Amen.
Yeah, good job.
Everybody rest up. We got more work to do. We'll see you in about 24 hours.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
All right. We're
All
making
right.
progress. It's
Yep.
not time to let up now. Okay.
Yep. Amen. All right.
Thank you, Queen.
Like, you know what they say? Thank you, Takesha. When they're on the ropes, keep punching.
Keep punching. Yeah, it's true. Good boxing cool, yeah.
All right. Keep
Good
punching.
job, everybody.
All
Yep.
right. All right,
All
everybody, breathe.
We do this again next time. We're gonna get even better. But we did great. It was great. It was
Yeah,
great.
it was awesome. It was awesome.
Better than good.
It was
Better than
awesome. It was awesome.
Everybody did wonderfully.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
All right, everybody. I'm gonna end it so everybody can turn all those highlights off of themselves.
All right.
All right. See you tomorrow. Much
Yeah.
love.
Much
Good
love. Much
night.
love.
Good job, everyone.
Bye,
Yep.
everybody.
All right.